Hey guys, it's Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, back again with Doctor Who. Last time on Doctor Who, we started off the first three parts of The Chase. What'll happen on that one?
Well, as they... now, wasn't it when they left the Web Planet? Or the Crusade?
Space Museum.
Space Museum. That's how far behind I am. Left the Space Museum. They were being tracked, apparently, by the Daleks, who have now somehow invented their own time and space machine. And they were chased to... the Empire State Building, and then later to the 19th century. So I guess we had the 20th century and the 19th century. They landed on a ship, which turned out to solve one of the greatest maritime mysteries of all time.
Yeah.
So, and then took off again, and now the Daleks are following them again.
Yep. That was pretty much that. We got multiple locations last time, which was pretty interesting. So we'll have to see if that continues on through these three episodes. Also, I did figure out later that we still have one more serial of Season 2 before we switch over to Season 3.
Okay.
So,
do we know what it's called? Is it a historical?
I don't know. I don't have it up on the list right now. So,
guess we'll find out at the end of today.
I guess, yeah. So... yeah, I guess that is pretty much it. You got anything else to say?
Nope. Just looking forward to seeing how this all ends up. Hope it doesn't get quite as silly as the Empire State Building episode.
Yeah, that was that one was a little goofy, but yeah, we will have to see. So let's go ahead and get right into this episode of Doctor Who. Here we go.
Vampire bats are only to be found in South America.
Maybe that's where we are.
No, I see the normal...
Although that sculpture in the background is very kind of Mayan and Olmec.
I would agree with you, but unfortunately we've got to face the Daleks, and I think it's essential we take a look around. Let's try upstairs,
And Bram Stoker, I think, got the idea for Dracula when seeing, like, human-sized bats off of the coast of East Africa.
You go if you want to, but I'm staying near the TARDIS. Me too.
Very well, stay where you are.
We'll get kidnapped this time.
There's no time to be kidnapped. The Daleks are coming.
What do you suppose is inside it?
No, don't tell me they've landed in Dracula's castle.
I think they might have. Nope, he got out of there.
I think we...
I feel as though my hair's turned white. It has, as a matter of fact. What? It's all right, though. Quite suits you. Oh, Vicky.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We are invincible.
Apparently not, dude.
Stop.
Can't kill the undead.
Oh, that's awkward.
Eradicate her.
Oh, Frankenstein monster got dressed.
Don't go. Don't go. Don't go.
Festival of Ghana, did it look like? 1996, price $10.
That makes less sense.
Festival of something, I couldn't catch what was on the sign.
How did they survive?
They were robots, I guess.
Oh, I guess.
Contact Scarrow. Report our destination to the Dalek Supreme. I obey.
Well, there are still Daleks on Skaro.
Looks swampy. Yes, all to the good, my boy. This sort of terrain is going to make it very difficult for the Daleks.
Yes. Well, we won't have long to explore, Doctor, before the Daleks arrive, so let's get moving.
The Daleks have come out of water.
Correct.
Just look at that vegetation.
Yes. Just as though it were alive.
Alive. Yes.
So they went to Dagobah. They went to Dagobah, yeah.
kind of an odd environment for a planet called Mechanus. You'd expect it to be, you know, all mechanical.
Planet Mechanus. You will infiltrate and kill. Infiltrate and kill.
Understand? Of course I understand, my dear fellow. Don't fuss so. I am to infiltrate and kill.
It's his voice, but I
Infiltrate
don't think...
and kill.
Didn't look like the voice synced up with what he was saying.
Might have dubbed him in later.
Oh, Frankenstein. Let's see who...
Alrighty. That is part 4. A weird one. So I guess you said that they were probably robots, which is why they couldn't be killed. That's still weird. So
Yeah. Now, it would be probably to our advantage to see if we can go back to see that sign, and because I think it said a specific year.
Convinced that that house was neither time nor space. We were lost for a period in an area of human thought.
With the Daleks lodging.
Oh, I don't want to enter into any discussion with it now.
Have it your own way. I think there's a much simpler explanation.
Festival of... Looks like... Cancelled by Peking. But it does look like 1996 to me.
well, yeah, 1996.
Yeah, but Ghana, Ghana. That's weird. Okay. Alrighty.
Well, it's
So a 35 years in the future, they were expecting to have an automated House of Horrors.
yeah, because I was saying like, okay, well, they're supposed to be robots, but they're very obviously just actors, and it's like, well, I guess you could get away with that, but depending on the year. So
This would have been just a few years after Disneyland opened up. Disneyland opened in 55, and they had, the Hall of Presidents. You've seen, because we went down to Epcot Center and saw the automated robots there. So, I mean, that's an idea, I think, that perhaps Terry Nation was looking at here, that the idea that there would be robot versions or cybernetic versions of human beings that were capable of just doing very simple tasks. So,
I am to infiltrate and kill. Infiltrate and kill.
I mean, that also didn't look like him in that shot.
Yeah.
So
a sentient mushroom. The mind boggles.
Our enemies are moving through the
That's not
jungle.
him.
no, I don't
You
think it
are
is.
to join them.
Infiltrate, separate, and kill. Yes, I understand. Well, the sooner I get started, the sooner I shall accomplish my mission.
This is weird. You know what would have been hilarious? Since this is 1965, if they got Peter Cushing to be the fake doctor.
Wonder if this is the guy that doubled for him in that walk that we first saw him outside.
Well, maybe. And I guess they might need to use the stunt actor if maybe if they have a cane fight or something.
Doctor? Doctor, it's me. Let me in. It's me.
Okay, there's another line on the resume. I played a sentient mushroom.
Alert! 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 The patrol will continue.
Maybe watch where you're going next time, Bill.
Robot, my dear, you haven't got a temperature, have you?
You come and sit down, Vicky.
There is a robot.
Channeled a bit of
The
McCoy
dog
there when he rolled his R.
Exactly like you.
Robot, me. You're the imposter. He is the imposter. Then prove it, my dear fellow. Prove it. And we shall all believe you.
He can't have any
I
of the
don't
doctor's
have
memories.
Watch him,
It's not
gentlemen.
him.
Watch him.
Ah, it is a cane fight. I knew it.
Let's get a doctor.
Guess they couldn't do much with that cane fight if Hartnell couldn't rely on his stunt actor for it.
Machine. Hostile. Plant life. Destroy.
Bill, what did I tell you last time?
No, destroy. We will organize a full-scale search of the jungle at daybreak.
Yeah, alright, we get it.
Never seen them agree by shaking their weapons or eyeball stalks, whatever those are.
Yeah.
I think that was up there all last night and we never knew.
Right so. And that is where we've got to get to.
Yeah, you bet.
Have you got that thing about?
I'll get it.
Well, come along. Come along.
Thingamabob.
Let's go. Come on. Look.
By the way, that city looked somewhat like some of the pavilions at the World's Fair that we went to, or that I went to in 1958. Very futuristic looking.
You heard what the gentleman said. Let's go.
Well, that just kind of happened at the end there.
Edmund Warwick.
I guess there's a machine there, so it's just a machine that lives amongst the shrooms. So
Okay. Now, I'm not going to say that Terry Nation was, sampling the local pharmaceuticals, but it certainly lends itself to that interpretation.
maybe when he was writing, like, okay, where are we going to go for all these locations? He just looked around his room and was like, okay, I have a postcard of the Empire State Building. Okay, that could work. I've got some sand, desert planet. Okay, we can work with that. Got some mushrooms. Okay, that could be an interesting planet. And I have a tiny metal ball. Sure. That could work.
Yeah, it would be interesting to go back and look at this to
Yeah.
find out what the background on it is.
Yeah, maybe he had a book on that ship that...
The Mary Celeste, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. These
Okay.
are the most random things that we could be going to, so...
Now, I'm not going to say I'm disappointed, but you would think that there would have been more specific historical stuff.
Yeah.
Because, again, putting us on a intergalactic planet with living mushrooms and mechanoids,
Yeah.
it doesn't have the same kind of attention grabber as setting it in the Crusades or setting it in Egyptian times or Roman Empire or several of the places we've been. Put it someplace that's very recognizable where we could use Roman siege machines or Middle Ages or whatever. So just World War II, World War One. So anyway, let's finish it out.
Yeah.
$830 mechanoid what?
I don't know. I lose it after that
You
point.
heard what the gentleman said. Let's go.
But he did say English.
I think so.
And again, that design is very late 50s, early 60s. Buckminster Fuller's, what was it called? But it's a sphere made up of triangles like that.
Hey, where you are? You real? Who are you?
I'm Stephen Taylor, Flight Red 50.
Well, we've learned something. His name?
Yes, Stephen Taylor.
About 50 years ago, Earth decided to colonize this planet. Well, it landed a rocket full of robots programmed to clear landing sites, get everything ready for the first immigrants.
And they didn't arrive.
No. So Earth got involved in interplanetary wars. I suppose this place was forgotten.
We are being held here as specimens.
What, like something in a zoo?
Yes, Vicky. Exactly like a zoo.
You know, this is interesting and all, but there are Daleks out there.
Display.
And as soon as the Daleks display hostility, the mechanoids will try to kill them.
I guess that's true. Sort of works out, I guess.
What happens when we get down to the ground?
We make our way back to my spaceship.
Your spaceship? Is it serviceable?
I certainly hope so.
But I thought... See, I assumed you'd crash.
You coming, Doctor?
Yes, I'm coming, dear boy, I'm coming.
You know, this is eerily similar to how we met Vicky.
Yeah. Do we suspect this may be a new companion?
Maybe.
We're allowed to go up here anytime. Light, exercise, there are no guards.
But we can't have 4 of them, so...
Maybe we're getting ready to jettison Ian and Barbara?
Well, I was also thinking, if we do take parts from the Dalek time machine, we could return to the 60s and drop them off, finally.
We climbed down 1,500 feet of cable. I'm not very good on heights.
Yes, it sounds rather risky.
I agree.
The cable's strong. It wouldn't break.
I think it's the only chance we've got.
Well, I
Still
don't
gotta-
like it. Look,
Still gotta be strong enough to climb down all that way.
Space travelers.
come and help us.
We're gonna have to lower.
I'm going to say, make a loop, tie her in it, lower her down, and
We'll tie the
Let
cable
Ian
round
or
you and lower you to the ground.
guy
You'll be quite
climb
safe.
down last.
I can't, please. I can't.
All right.
Please let me.
Okay? Once you get over that ledge, it's easy. But every molecule in your body will not let you get over that edge. I've done that before. I've free repelled. Now, I only did about 120, 130 feet, but getting over that edge is the hardest thing in the world. Be cool to see a little cable off the side of that.
Well, these angles are getting crazy.
Can't understand the mechanoids at all.
Nope. Someone's getting a little artsy with this battle.
It's like a volcano exploding.
Wow. This seems like a lot for just the Daleks and the mechanoids.
Do you realize we could get home?
Oh. We may never get another chance.
Do you think we could work it?
Would the doctor take us?
Let's ask him.
I guess they could go in that time machine and then come back and then get back in the TARDIS.
You are absolute idiots.
We are not idiots. We want to go home.
Yes, home. I want to sit in a pub and drink a pint of beer again. I want to walk in a park and watch a cricket match.
And now we have a chance to go home. We want to take that chance. Will you help us work that machine?
No. No. I will not aid and abet suicide.
Oh, he's a stubborn as
Do you both realize the enormous risks?
We do. We still want to go.
Please, Doctor.
Very well. Follow me.
London, 1965.
Hey, we're 2 years out.
Oh, what's 2 years amongst friends? We're home. Stupid as ever. Run!
I'm wondering if they were going to send it back or blow it up.
Yeah. You can't just leave the Dalek time machine there.
Traveling for a while.
Trafalgar Square.
Where have you been, on the moon?
No, but you're getting warm. Shh.
Oh yeah, that thing.
I shall miss them. Yes, I shall miss them. City of hotspots. So long, my dear. It's time we were off.
But wait.
What about Steven?
He's probably stowed away.
I guess we'll find out next episode.
Well, it seems only right that he would stow away somehow,
Yeah.
since he did survive the explosion.
Alrighty. And that is part 6.
Now, I'm assuming that somewhere in the canon after this, we'll find out what happens to them, but one suspects that Barbara and Ian will ultimately get married.
Perhaps. Well, okay. So there's several things, and nothing is... I don't know. There are several things with Ian and Barbara. I know there's a comic where the 11th Doctor actually meets up with Ian and Barbara, and they go on an adventure. In the Sarah Jane Adventures, they actually say that Ian and Barbara are still alive, and for some reason they haven't aged a day since the 60s. Don't know how that works. They don't really go into that. And in the 50th anniversary, when it cuts to Coal Hill, where we meet the Doctor's companion Clara, it does say on the sign, Coal Hill, Chairman I. Chesterton. So that's about the most I know.
But you would think of, 2 years of together, and of course they were obviously friends before that,
Yeah.
that there's, some kind of relationship that will develop there.
Yeah. So I mean, now we have a completely new team from where we started. No Ian, no Barbara, no Susan. So, and I mean, that's also the interesting thing is that at a point we won't even have the same Doctor. So that'll be coming up. I mean, not soon, but
Probably within the next 4 or 5 months for us.
yeah. So,
All right, well, again, sadly, there was some silliness in there. But, again, if it wasn't a 6-part series, if they had taken it down to... And again, thanks to all the commenters who have said, basically you have to do 6-parters like this to save money on, sets and construction and stuff like that. But, again, some judicious editing would have made this really very tight and a lot better. Again, the mechanoids... A good idea that again,
it was
a couple of spheres with little pinchers, and again, kudos to the special effects team for the battle between the Daleks and the mechanoids. Did the best they could with a very limited amount of resources, but again, yeah, I think this could have easily been done in 4, definitely in 5. It just seemed a little unusual to drag it all the way out to 6.
Yeah, I mean, well, and also too, with people saying like, oh, well, you gotta do 6 so that you can save money on some stuff. And only for 1 episode did they make these gigantic, elaborate mechanoids. And it's like, okay, you gotta bring these back somehow. Because it's like, all right, the Daleks, obviously they can, they're pretty positive they can invest in Dalek, suits now. But even then, the Dalek suits aren't that complicated compared to the mechanoids. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. It's like, all right, so we're only getting these in 1 episode, and they're dead. They're gone, I guess. They were destroyed in the Great Battle with the Daleks. Yeah. So it seemed kind of odd. Well, and also too, just with this being 6 parts, they took none of those 6 parts to foreshadow Ian and Barbara leaving. So
although we did kind of see that with Steven the first time we saw him, but that wasn't until the beginning of 6.
Yeah, he wasn't there until episode 6. No. So the only thing I could think, and I guess the only way that you would really be able to do it is if they just said, you know, like, oh, maybe in part 1, you know, while they were looking at the visualizer, you know, they saw, you know, London in 1965, and they were like, oh, well, I miss home. Then you could, but then that becomes way too obvious, you know. But
yeah,
they kind of did that with Susan too.
There could have been somewhere in the first 2 or 3 episodes where somebody, I mean, Vicky would be the most likely, when she said, the fact that they're following us means that they have some control. Maybe, you know, we'll be able to, you know, if we get out of this alive, maybe we'll be able to utilize some of their technology. That, again, like you said, even one line would have been a setup for it.
Well, and it's also interesting that they also set up a way to fix the TARDIS, and they did not actually go through with it. Like, I thought it's like, okay, so they kill all the Daleks and their time machine is left over. So the Doctor could go in, he's a genius, you know, strip it for parts, get everything that he needs, repair the TARDIS, and then he could, you know, he could use the TARDIS, go anywhere he wants to.
Yeah.
But, of course, you know, we know that I don't think it's until in the era of the Third Doctor that he actually gets the TARDIS fixed, and I think that's, you know, when the Time Lords, like, allow the TARDIS to be fixed, which I think is after the 10th anniversary. So, so we already kind of know that, but I don't know. It just seems like you could have done that, and then the TARDIS could have gone there, or even if it was just like they fix it enough so that the TARDIS can go back there, and then they leave.
Just a one-time thing,
Yeah. So it does seem odd to do it.
I don't want to say a completely wasted opportunity, but yeah, there were some interesting possibilities they could have done.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got?
Well, let's see. Going into the notes, the first thing I wrote down was Dracula. Again, this was just a very weird set of episodes. You know, like, I liked it, but it's like, okay, how did we decide, okay, we're going to go to a movie set where there are robots of different, you know, monsters and stuff? It's like, okay, was Terry Nation, you know, again, looking around his room, he found a poster for Dracula, and I was like, okay, that'll work. He was like, oh, how do I actually put vampires and monsters and stuff in here? It's like, well, it's robots in 1996, so that can work.
Yeah. Animatronics, I think, was the word I was looking for earlier.
Yeah.
Disney was one of the first to come up with those animatronics. Yeah, and later they even went down to Chuck E. Cheese. I don't know if you remember the animated bears that played in the Jamboree there on stage, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's the same sort of thing. And again, the fact that they set it in 1996 meant that they were giving themselves, you know, 30 years in the future to develop animatronics that could, you know, walk and talk and do all the things that Dracula and the witch. I couldn't understand. What was the witch screaming all the time?
I don't know.
And then the Frankenstein's monster and so forth. So
yeah, it was just an interesting sort of place. Well, and also too, just the fact. Well, no, for a second I forgot that it's not a film set. It was just a festival place. So. Yeah. So that's why it was just that. Well, I was also thinking at first, like, are these guys actors? And it's like, if so, those actors are dead. But then they kept going. So, so that was interesting. And then we had the Daleks versus the monsters. You know, for an animatronic, that Frankenstein monster was pretty strong.
Yeah.
You know, to like, okay, what part of the animatronic is it that this guy picks something up, slams it to the ground, and then starts beating it? Because that's what he did to the Dalek.
Well, remember, the actual Frankenstein monster's character, the way it was portrayed in the movies anyway, certainly not in the novel, but, you know, he was somewhat mindless, and anything that threatened him, he would, you know, tear it up. But, yeah, that's a very movie, and I guess I'm assuming they did that because most people had never read the novel, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, because in the book he's articulate, and I mean it's really more of it's a chase where he's trying to find Dr. Frankenstein to say, you know, why did you do this to me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very, very much a cinematic version of Dracula and Frankenstein and whoever the witch was.
Yeah. Let's see. I wrote down separated. They really didn't do too much with that, with Vicky being separated for a bit. Which it is sort of like a scary thing where it's like, you know, the TARDIS just leaves and then you're not in there. It's like, yeah, you really don't know like where it's going or anything. It's like that does have to be kind of terrifying. But she did stow away on the Dalek ship, which also has its own risks because you're amongst the Daleks.
And again, how, with all of the security and all of the paranoid Dalek, personality, how did she get away with that? How did she get onto their ship and manage to hide from them for that entire time?
Well, I guess that will also be our question for next episode, because we pretty much have the idea that Steven is going to be stowing away on the TARDIS. So how did he sneak in there? Well, especially too because I guess at least the Daleks don't lock their doors. So, because there were multiple times where they were able to get in and out just fine. But the TARDIS is very specifically locked, so I don't know how Steven got on there without them knowing. So, we had the duplicate doctor, who, I mean, gave the stunt actor some work, but now it was interesting in some of those scenes where it's like, okay, yeah, obviously, you need two versions of the Doctor, so you put the stunt actor on there. But there were some times where it's like, why can't you just use Hartnell for this shot? And especially, too, when it's like, and they're wearing the exact same thing. It shouldn't be too hard to be like, okay, now, Bill, now you just go over here and you do this scene, then we'll just move you a few feet over here and you'll do this line. Maybe, but it's like, I don't know.
But again, I would... the thing is, having done some stuff like this, again, if I were directing, if I had the money and everything to do and the editing ability, just shoot all of the real Doctor scenes at once, then all the fake Doctor scenes at once, and then cut them and splice them together. And I realize that what you're saying is probably more likely what happened. We have to film this first and then come over here to the fake one and then back to the real one, because they couldn't do a lot of splicing. But
yeah.
It was interesting that they always tried to keep the fake Doctor either, from behind over his shoulder, but the few times that they shot him where you could even see him in the background, it was very obvious that wasn't Hartnell.
Yeah, well, and then down to the one shot where he's just right there next to Vicky and Barbara, and there's light on him and everything, and it's pretty close, and it's like, that is very obviously not William Hartnell. Yeah. Like, it looks close. It looks close, but he's kind of like maybe a bit skinnier than Hartnell is. So
yeah, not quite as substantial, and his nose is completely wrong.
Yeah,
I mean that's the first thing that I noticed is he almost had what they call a Roman nose, that very flat from the forehead straight down to the tip, and Hartnell's is much different.
Yeah. Let's see. I wrote down the shrooms. I thought they were funny. So.
Again, every time I saw them, I got to thinking of, Alice in Wonderland and the caterpillar sitting up on top of the magic mushroom, smoking a hookah, probably full of some kind of weed. So,
yeah. It almost makes me wonder, like maybe they recycled the squid costume from a few episodes ago, but of course there were a lot of, at least 2 or 3 of those shrooms. So, and. I do like the one Dalek that kept running into them. Like come on, man, you gotta. That's always your fault for running into them. Like, get some spatial awareness, man. So, it almost makes me wish that the Daleks were kind of sassy with each other. Like that'd be funny.
But it would also have been interesting to see one of the mushrooms, drop down on the Dalek and try to digest him or something, and then, like in the Dagobah sequence in Star Wars, where the swamp animal tried to eat R2 and then spit him out because he was undigestible. That would have been funny. Nice little touch.
Yeah. We had the cane fight between the two Doctors, which again, I realized like, oh, so that's great that they're actually using their canes as sort of swords, but then it made me realize, well, wait. If that one's the stunt actor, and so Hartnell has to be in this scene, so it's like, so they probably can't do too much because they can't just cut to the stunt actor to do this scene. So,
yeah, that was staged as well as they possibly could for those two guys. But yeah, it would have been fun to see a little bit more of an actual fight. Now, of course, they'd hired a second stunt double, to do that. Just even 5-10 more seconds of it to really show that the Doctor, had some fencing moves would have been
cool. Let's see. Okay, so we had the mechanoids. So, okay, this is a lot of exposition that they had to throw about these mechanoids. and it doesn't all make sense. So the mechanoids, those were the things that the humans sent to this planet, right?
To colonize it. That was what I got, yeah.
Yeah. But then the colonists just didn't arrive, so the mechanoids just, like, took over.
Evolved, yeah.
Yeah,
Their programming
guess,
evolved.
Yeah, I guess so. And then when Steven showed up, they just captured him and put him in a cell, and then he never figured out a way out in 2 years. And then well, here's
the thing, and again, one sentence would have helped that. If he knew he was by himself, there would be no point in escaping from the mechanoid city, because where would he go?
Yeah.
He'd go in amongst the living mushrooms who were trying to saute him and eat him. So
Yeah.
I mean, if it were me, I would have said, okay, I'll stay here because I literally have no chance of survival outside of where I am right now.
Yeah, instead of, like, making it to where he was just a prisoner, it's just he's just there because he has to be.
Yeah.
So it's like these mechanoids just built this city for all the colonists, and they got me, so I'm just kind of left here. And maybe it would have been interesting if, like, they were treating him well, like, he wasn't a prisoner, but, like, as soon as, like, oh, well, you can leave on the TARDIS, then the mechanoids turn. It's like, well, no, he needs to stay here as a colonist. Like, that would have made a little bit more sense. Well, and also just the fact that, like they said, it's like, okay, so we sent the mechanoids here to do the deforesting and everything, and then the colonists, they just didn't arrive, and then Earth got into wars for, like, 50 years, and then just nothing happened. It's like, why were there wars specifically?
And how does Vicky not know about this, unless he's from a time period beyond where she was?
I would have to assume he's further in the future than her, so... which that could be an interesting dynamic if we keep him around.
Yeah.
So...
And I'm sure, again, I'm assuming he's becoming the next companion. We'll find out more about his background in the next series.
Yeah. He's definitely, like... He's definitely different, I feel like, because he was saying, like, oh, I said if I ever, met another human, I wouldn't stop talking for a week. And it's like, well, you haven't stopped talking, so... he's definitely, like, a bit more energetic, and it would be interesting to see how he plays off the Doctor, because, like, okay, Vicky is just sort of a more refined, I guess, better written version of Susan, but she still sort of filled the position that Susan left behind. So now if we have Steven filling in for Ian, that would be... It seems like he would be a bit different from Ian, which is good at least. So
Now, again, obviously he would be well-trained because he's an astronaut. He's basically a space traveler. He looks to be somewhat younger and a little bit beefier than Ian, so obviously he's going to be the muscle. But again, if he's from the future, he'll be more like Vicky. He'll be a lot more aware of science and mathematics and history and all the rest of that stuff than Ian ever was. Because let's face it, wasn't Ian just a math teacher or a science teacher?
Yeah, I think it was a science teacher. Yeah. So,
see, that's why Barbara was so good, is because she was at least a history teacher on Earth. But again, now if we have two people from the future traveling with him, they'll supposedly be a lot more aware of circumstances. Yeah. Even if they go to different planets and things like that.
Granted, where I guess they have that, I'm not sure either of them can fill the warrior shoes that both Ian and Barbara are now leaving behind. So, I mean... Because, I feel bad that we cannot joke about this anymore, but with Ian, to his credit, was actually trained, like, by the Aztecs and stuff. And then Barbara, that's just our running joke that she's the warrior. So, it's like, I guess... Is that why they've had, like, in a couple episodes, like in the Romans and now in this, with the Doctor having to be in a fight or two? It's like, is he going to have to be the warrior of the three of them now? Like, I don't know. That might be interesting.
Yeah.
And then, we had this whole thing, 6 episodes of a chase. I feel like episode 6, we kind of were like, okay, just forget about the Daleks. Don't worry, that will resolve itself. And we're just going to move on now. And it's like, but we had the Daleks. Like, there wasn't this great final confrontation. I mean, there was, but that was with the mechanoids, and it's like we just happened to stumble across this place where, oh, these guys, they'll fight the Daleks and we'll get out of here. And it's like, but they were preparing, the Doctor had this machine which took out one Dalek, but that was one Dalek. And it's like, well, luckily we found these the very convenient giant robot things that can also fight the Daleks.
Again, Stephen did set that up. It could have been a little bit more pointed, but he did set up the fact that when the mechanoids are threatened, they will go into defensive mode.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they set that up, but still, it is sort of like we really just lucked out that we found these mechanoids, especially because we've been, the Daleks have been getting closer and closer with each time that they jump. So
now an alternative version would be to get all the Daleks up in the city and have Stephen somehow tell the mechanoids that they needed to self-destruct, and so they climb down and they get away, and then the mechanoids self-destruct and take the Daleks with them. But I mean, if you wanted to be proactive about the Doctor and his companions figuring out how to deal with the Daleks, but, it all works out this way.
It just sort of felt like the Daleks were not a major part of the final episode of this specific Dalek serial. So, which I guess, so we've seen 3 of these now, going through chronologically. We've had the Daleks, the Dalek invasion of Earth, and now the Chase. Which one do you think is the best of these 3?
Well, I think this was the least of the 3. The original Dalek, that was fun, just to get to know them, and here's what they're doing. Dalek Invasion of Earth. Again, we said that there were some, obviously gaping holes in that entire thing. So I don't know. I mean, I know that they are iconic. They were a big hit from the very beginning. And again, we're looking at this from 50 years on, so I don't want to be too critical of them. But this one, again, seems to be, once again, a great premise. But, I mean, seriously, some of the stuff that they did was just so silly. That, it doesn't fit in with what we know of the Daleks.
Yeah, that's true. Which I suppose the Daleks themselves weren't the weird part. It was more, the Alabama guy and, going to this festival with Dracula and everything, and then there were giant shrooms, but it's like, I guess the Daleks themselves were pretty consistent. I think I don't know. It is a little hard to rank these 3 serials so far. So, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like the first 2, it's like, okay, maybe they were a bit more of a consistent story. But then it's like, okay, well, would I rather have the first serial where we're going through caves and forests and then the Thals are there and then you get the Daleks, or like the Dalek Invasion of Earth, which was, going around to different places, trying to avoid them. There's this underground resistance. And then there's this one where, well, it's interesting, we're going to so many different places, but the story, tying it all together is kind of weird, and then at the end it just sort of ends. So,
now, did one of the commenters say that the 3rd movie was supposed to be based on this?
Yes.
Makes you wonder if they would have upgraded the storyline a little bit more so that it would be a little bit more focused, and it'd be interesting to know that. Was there a script ever even put on speculation? Because if it was just a retread of this, then I understand why they decided not to do it.
Well, and especially since the second movie bombed, apparently. So the only thing I would think, judging by the first 2 movies, that it would be just a retelling of this, pretty much verbatim. But it's like, there's really no point to that. Like, okay, if you want to have the Daleks on the big screen, okay, the first 2 stories they're okay enough to where it's like, okay, you could redo these, I guess. This one, it's like there are so many specific things you would have to do that it seems weird to have them try to translate that to the big screen. So it's like if they did this one, I think it would be in their best interest to just scrap every location that they went to in this one, and then because you can't go with, you know, leaving behind Ian and Barbara and then picking up Steven at the end, because they didn't have Ian and Barbara in the second movie, and they didn't leave Susan behind in the second movie either. So if you just came up with brand new locations, and it's like, okay, the thing keeping it to this serial is the crew and the Daleks, and they're just going through time, then it could be okay. But I don't know if they would have done that. So, and then the last thing I wrote down is Ian and Barbara, losing the two of them. Which is interesting that it's another Dalek serial that we lose a companion. Now I know that we have another Dalek serial coming up in about a month or so it's pretty close. Makes me wonder then, it's like, okay, so in the next one, are we going to lose Vicky then? Like, does she have maybe a short tenure on the show?
I don't know. Again, I watched all these when they were first coming out, but I don't have any vague memory of what the timeline is here. So I don't know if she's staying or not. Yeah.
I don't even know if these are the same companions by the time we get to the second Doctor. So, so yeah, we might lose someone else at the next one, the next 12-part Dalek serial.
Is it going to take us 4 times? Are we going to try to do 3, 3, 3, and 3, or 4, 4, and 4?
I think it would be 4. So
okay.
3 weeks of Daleks. So
oh boy. And strangely enough, one other thing, again, right at the very end, we got that huge emotional scene when Susan was left behind. Now I realize that, you know, she was the Doctor's granddaughter, but these two people have been with him for a year, and he's very angry. And then Vicky comes up and says, "Oh, you got to let him go." He says, "All right, let me show you." And then they go in, and the next thing you see, he and Vicky come out, and there's no, you know. And he says, "You know, I shall miss them." But why couldn't he say that to them?
Yeah, I guess, you know, I guess you kind of have to assume that Ian and Barbara know that. But yeah, there wasn't a scene between them. There was a scene for the audience to say goodbye to Ian and Barbara, but there wasn't a scene with the Doctor. Yeah. So that was kind of odd. So, and at first I was kind of thinking, you know, oh, the Doctor's getting so angry about this, and then it's like, oh, okay, it's not just that, you know, oh, there's a big risk, and, you know, this is a little too much. It is that the Doctor doesn't really want to let them go.
Yeah.
So that does make sense. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. So next episode, it'll be a completely different crew from where we started. Isn't that interesting?
Yep.
I mean, we knew we would get here someday, but I didn't realize until like this episode. I was like, you know, if they take the Dalek ship, and it's like, okay, well, they could go back to the 60s then, because the Dalek time machine, we have to admit at this moment, is kind of better than the TARDIS, because it can go anywhere. So,
but they theoretically don't know how to run it. The Doctor said it's only a 50-50 chance that I know what I'm doing here. Getting you back to 63, but also does set up the self-destruct mechanism so that when they get out of it, it blows up.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that, and I was just like, so there's just gonna be a Dalek time machine just like out there? Are they just gonna like put up a sign, leave alone or something? But that worked out that it did self-destruct, and I don't think we ever see Ian and Barbara again on the show itself. So whereas like in the 20th anniversary, like they bring back Susan for the 5 Doctors and stuff, I don't think we ever see these two again. So
oh well.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. You got anything else?
Hail and farewell to Ian and Barbara.
All right. Well, that is pretty much it. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch more of our Doctor Who classic reactions, you can click on the playlist, you can subscribe if you haven't done that already, and be sure you hit that notification bell. You can support me on Patreon and follow me on social media, links below in the description. See you guys later.